Good evening, everyone. It's now 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Rock County Board of Supervisors meeting to order on this 27th day of May 2021. I'd like to ask Vice Chair Davis to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Wes, if you would, please.
Dear God, creator of all, let us be in awe of your many gifts and guide us this night to care for our fellow county residents. Protect your earth and make wise and thoughtful decisions. Help us to do this. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America
and
and
to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Wes. Lisa, would you please read the roll?
Gitter,
Here.
Beaver,
Present.
Baumkamp,
Here.
Pam Bostwick,
Here.
Brian,
Here.
Davis,
here.
Fox,
Here.
Justina, Holman,
Here.
Knutson, Levy,
Here.
Mulwiney,
Here.
Mulligan,
Here.
Pier,
Present.
Podzilny,
Here.
Potter,
Here.
Rashkin,
Here.
Richard,
Here.
Renish,
Here.
Scholes,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Sweeney,
Here.
Taylor,
Here.
Wildy, Williams,
Present.
Wilson,
Here.
Yeomans,
Here.
Rich Bostwick.
Here.
I'm going to check with Knutson. I thought I saw him on earlier.
Justina said he might be a little late. He's trying to find access to a site up in Boulder Junction.
Okay.
Knutson just joined.
Thank you. (26) present, 2 absent, 1 vacant.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. Before we proceed, I would like to remind supervisors that if you are not speaking, make sure that you are muted. I see a few supervisors right now that are unmuted. If you would please correct that. Also, when we get going in discussion, make sure that you try to utilize that raise hand option so we can keep track of who wants to speak in what order. I realize that Supervisor Holman and maybe another supervisor or two will be joining us by phone, in which case you'll just have to speak up and we'll get you in the rotation. Thank you for that. Next item, Lisa.
Next item. Item 4, consent agenda. 4A, adoption of agenda. 4B, approval of minutes from May 13th, 2021. 4C, nominations, appointments, and confirmations. C1, appointments to the Children's Community Options Program Advisory Committee. C2, appointments to the Coordinated Services Team Coordinating Committee. C, recognition of county employees or others. D, other. 1, amending the 2021 Council on Aging budget to adjust the following Older Americans Act programs. C2, home delivered meals allocations. D2, authorization for Cielo microwave radio updates. C3, D3, authorizing purchase of Cisco network equipment for Dr. Williams Rock County Resource Center. That is the end of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Would someone please move the consent agenda?
I move the consent agenda.
Okay, I heard Supervisor Pudzilny, and was that Supervisor Mulligan as a second?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you both. Are there any objections to items on the consent agenda tonight? Any objections? Are there any questions about items on the consent agenda? Any questions? Seeing none, consent agenda has passed. Next item, please.
Next item, item 5, public hearing. We do not have a public hearing this evening. Item 6, citizen participation and communications. We received 2 submitted written comments for this evening. The first one is from Judy Karstide. Purchase Boy Scout camp for County Park to preserve natural setting and public access for enjoyment and learning. Suggestions for use: hiking, cross-country skiing, youth day camps, community service, hours for graduating high school seniors, family reunions, community organizational meeting place, retreats, boat landings, etc. She's from Beloit, Wisconsin. The second one is from Sheila Williams from Janesville, Wisconsin. With the 96 million build in the planning stages for the sheriff's office, I am asking that you as our representatives take the time and energy to look deeper at the overall impact that any additional tax increases at the county level will have when combined with all of the other fees, assessments, and taxes that taxpayers are currently carrying. I am asking that you differentiate between the needs and the wants of government agencies in order to keep local government spending under control. While another tax increase of an estimated $45 per 100,000 home may seem like a small sacrifice to yourself personally, this is just not the case for many, especially those on a fixed income or those adversely impacted by COVID. This may not apply to where you are currently residing, but here in the Janesville-Milton district where I live, the tax burden is raising several eyebrows of concern. Here are some of some of the examples of items that you may not be aware of that taxpayers outside your districts are facing. It is not all an inclusive listing, and I ask that you continue to gather this type of data in order to make an informed decision for those you represent. Our home values in Janesville have now been adjusted 100% of market value in the midst of a higher real estate market. Since the closing of General Motors, our water bill has doubled as our usage has declined. City of Janesville recently special assessed some residents for new sidewalk installations. One resident was forced to pay over $3,000 for this improvement. They had the option to pay it in full, or they were allowed to pay in installments similar to a car loan while being charged finance charges for the privilege of installation pay. This is a person on a fixed income. We have been burdened with 2 Milton school referendums. The initial 2.5 million, which resulted in the actual tax increase coming in much higher than the projected, to which the voters assumed they were agreeing to when they voted. And the most recent school referendum that passed is at 59.9 million. We now have additional wheel tax to pay for our city streets here in the city of Janesville. In addition, other Rock County capital projects such as Rockhaven, for example, the taxpayers are still paying that debt, I believe for another 8 years. We are now paying an additional 5.5% on purchases due to the sales tax increase you approved a few years back. Ancillary taxes, which flow through utilities, cable, phone companies, etc., continue to increase as well. Additionally, because currently all building materials and labor costs are being impacted by significant inflation, it would seem prudent to not begin the bid process until this market has corrected. This would allow for a realistic cost on construction projects to be obtained and prevent taxpayers from having to fund an overpriced asset. So as you go forth in your planning, please continue to view the issues at hand from others' perspectives. Many of us have relocated to Rock County in order to escape the high taxes of Dane County. Again, thank you for your service and your willingness to listen and work with those you represent. That is the last of public comment that was submitted.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any communications from supervisors tonight? Anything from supervisors?
Yes, sorry.
Was somebody wishing to speak? Apparently not. Oh, Supervisor here.
Rich, I have a comment.
Okay, I see Lou's hand up. I'll get right to you then, Mary.
Thank you.
Sure, Lou? Lou, you're muted right now.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I was out to visit Eva Arnold yesterday. She can take visitors now. She's in, for those that know her and would like to go out and visit her, she's in room 106. And she wanted to tell everyone hi and misses everyone, but appreciates everything that you're doing. Thank you.
And Lou, for those that don't know, could you tell us what facility she is in?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, she's in Cedar Crest. She's out at Cedar Crest on River Road.
Okay, thank you very much, Lou. Appreciate that. Supervisor Mulhenny.
Thank you. On June 5th at Wilmar Holstein's will be the dairy breakfast for Rock County from 6:30 a.m. to 11. On June 11th is Pork Fest at the Rock County Fairgrounds, and it's drive-through 5 to 8. Thank you.
Mary, before you go, the dairy breakfast, where is the location of that?
It is at, I can't read my own writing here, 5928 East Bingham Road, and that's Milton.
Good, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other supervisors with announcements tonight? Supervisor Rinish.
Yes, I would just like to encourage supervisors, but mostly the public, to go take a tour of the sheriff's office and the jail. It really is an eye-opening experience with just how much they're doing right now with so little. It would be a really good idea to just take a tour and see how much life really can be better for both the workers and the inmates, as well as helping our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Danette. Other supervisors? Anything from staff tonight? Anything from staff? Okay, next item, please, Lisa.
Next item, item 7, nominations, appointments, and confirmations. We have completed those already. Item 8, recognition of county employees or others. 8A, recognizing Rock County Assistant District Attorney Mark Janik.
Moved by Supervisor Beaver.
Baumkamp seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Supervisor Beaver?
Is David O'Leary on here tonight?
I'm not sure. Let's look.
Nope, I didn't see him. That's why I'm asking. Okay,
I don't see him.
I'll take it then.
Sure.
So we would like to thank our Assistant District Attorney, Mark, for his many years of service to Rock County. He began his legal career in private practice from 89 to 95. He was hired as a special prosecutor in the Columbia County District Attorney's Office from 95 to 96. Mark was hired as a full-time assistant DA in Dodge County. From 97 to 98, Mark was hired as a ADA in the Rock County District Attorney's Office on March 15th, 1998. He has served as a general prosecutor focusing on domestic violence, gun, and drug prosecution. Mark has served Rock County as an assistant district attorney since 1998 and intends to retire with over 23 years of service to the citizens of Rock County. I'd like to thank Mark for his many years of service. Being a ADA cannot be very nice job, cushy job. I'm sure he has dealt with a lot of our people who needed help in their time, you know, with the domestic violence and so forth. So, Mark, I hope that you enjoy your retirement and that you kick back and enjoy that greener grass. So, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Beaver. Next item, please.
Next item, 8B, proclaiming May 2021 Treatment Court Month.
Moved by Supervisor Beaver.
Thank you.
Baumkamp, second.
By Supervisor Yeomans.
I think Ron got there first. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Supervisor Beaver, back to you.
I'm up again. So, I don't believe I saw Elizabeth on here either, did I?
I didn't notice her, but I.
Okay.
So Supervisor Beaver, Elizabeth is not here, but Judges McCrory, Hawkinson, and Hanson are.
I saw that we have two judges. So I just want to say thank you for all that you guys do. The judges and Elizabeth, the CJCC. I mean, like I said at Public Safety the other night, you know, I went and sat in on a drug court one morning. Our ex-supervisor, Sandra Kraft, took me on a little tour and we sat in and watched it. It's a tough court. I'm happy to say that it's a tough court. We've had a lot of people who have graduated from it, gotten jobs and, you know, reunited with their families. And it's an awesome thing that we have going out there. And in fact, I don't know, many of you saw that channel 1 or 2, whatever it is on Charter, but this morning they had a documentary on, I think it was Iowa Court, that was doing the same thing. And it was kind of interesting to listen to it, another perspective of a different county. So thank you guys for all you do, and the judges, I'm gonna let you take it on from here.
Okay, I'm Judge McCrory and I do our drug treatment court, and I've been doing it, I can't even remember how long I've been doing it. It's probably right around 5 years now. And it is difficult, and it's been especially difficult during the COVID pandemic with our, I mean, we're a little bit limited by what we can do, but I would tell you not only the work that Elizabeth does, but the work that our the staff does, our treatment staff from the Department of Human Services. Those people go above and beyond the call of duty in terms of trying to make sure that they're keeping each one of our clients safe. And I can't say enough about the work that the women right now on the drug treatment court staff, it's all women, the work that they do and the way that they care for these people. I don't have any specific statistics to give you other than the fact that we still continue to be around a 50% success rate, graduation rate, which is right around the national average. We continue to follow and try to work with our best practices in terms of doing things sanction-wise and incentive-wise. And our treatment, and that is really because of the people in the department, is I think some of the best drug treatment, outpatient drug treatment that you're going to get. We continue to deal in drug treatment court with people that are high risk and high needs. So we're addressing not only the addiction issues, but also the underlying criminal behavior. So it is a tough group of people, but when they do succeed, it is wonderful to see. And I was hoping that one of our graduates was going to be here today. Unfortunately, I think it was sort of a last minute thing, so I'm not sure if she could make it. But one of the things that I heard just today, to tell you a little bit about the successes, one of our graduates is working in a convenience store. And what we found out from another graduate is this graduate goes into this convenience store and she comes out and she talks to her counselor. And she says, you know, there was this clerk at this convenience store. And she was just encouraging me. She said, you know, I know you used to come in here and I know you would be in here, you'd be high, you'd be looking to see what you could get. And I see that you're doing really well now. And I just want to make sure that you know that I appreciate you. So when they're done, they're also out there encouraging other people and working with other people. That's something as well that speaks volumes of what we do. As I said, it's not been an easy year, but with the support that we get from this county board and this administration, it's fantastic and I appreciate it. And I want to thank you for everything that you do for the Drug Treatment Court. And I know that Judge Hawkinson is here and also Judge Hanson, so I'll let them talk as well. Don't beat each other up, Carl and Mike, one of you go.
This is Carl Hansen. I want to thank you, just as Judge McCrory did, for having us here tonight, for the opportunity to recognize the treatment courts and to thank the county board for its support. I am fortunate enough to preside over the Veterans Treatment Court. I've been in that role for a little over a year, actually about a year and a half now. And being a veteran myself, I would tell you it's one of the most rewarding experiences that I have as a judge. I look forward to Veterans Treatment Court more than anything else on my docket. Currently, we have 2 veterans in the program whose time in Iraq overlapped with mine. We were in Iraq in 2005 and 2009. It's just coincidence. But I can see from the perspective of not just a judge, but the perspective of a veteran with a common shared experience, how important the program is to their recovery and to the continued safety of our community. What those veterans put in through Veterans Treatment Court and through their treatment in the VA is just as intense as anything that I have seen in the military. And I'm very proud of the effort that they put in. There are the ups and the downs, as Judge McCrory was talking about, but what I have continuously seen from this group of veterans is something that reminds me of what General Patton once said, that the measure of a man is not how high he climbs, but how high he bounces when he hits the bottom. And for many of these individuals, they have hit a bottom, they've recognized that, and the level to which they're bouncing up at this point is impressive. Much of our support comes through the Veterans Administration. We're very fortunate that they provide treatment to the veterans, and they provide a veteran justice officer who helps orchestrate some of that. But the gaps in that are filled by the county, and the county helps us by providing the urinalysis program and county employees like Assistant District Attorney Braunschweig, a couple of other county employees to other degrees, and Deputy Emily Miller from the Sheriff's Office. Deputy Miller has become an instrumental part of the program. She is one of the go-to people, not just for the team members, but for the participants. And she answers calls at all hours of the day from those veterans when they're in low moments. And it's really impressive to see. Again, I guess I know that Sheriff Knudsen is here. I would thank the sheriff and the county board for all of its support of the Veterans Treatment Court. Thank you.
Guess I'm up if I can unmute myself. Hi, I'm Judge Hawkinson, and I preside over the OWI Court and the Family Recovery Court. I'll talk about OWI Court to begin with. That's commonly known as Drunk Driving Court. I've been doing that about 3 years or so. I inherited it from Judge Bates, and I was lucky enough to have a great program when Judge Bates had it, and we've been able to maintain that program. Once again, for both programs, we greatly appreciate, both programs greatly appreciate the support of the county, and the county employees are playing critical roles in making sure that those programs work well. I also have the privilege of having Emily Miller on OWI Court with me, and she is a significant participant, as Judge Hanson talked about. She's a go-to person, but we've had some interesting comments by folks that Deputy Miller is somebody who a lot of our folks have had negative interactions with law enforcement. She's there to support them. She helps them out. She's a problem solver. And we really appreciate her on OWI Court. The treatment team in OWI Court are all county employees, outstanding folks. Elizabeth has made a huge difference in making sure that we follow the standards. Within the last year, we got a grant to expand our court. So we're going to be moving forward and adding OWI fourths, potentially some fifths into the court. About a month ago, we had a review, earlier this month, we had a review by a national group who specializes in OWI courts. They watched our sessions, they talked to us individually, and they think we have an excellent program. We got some ideas about how to tweak things, but they were very impressed, and they were impressed with the county employees in particular in providing the treatment. We also work with probation, who's an important component. But I was lucky enough to inherit a great team, and that team continues on, and we're making some significant strides. We had another graduation this week, so I was pretty happy about that. In terms of Family Recovery Court, we just started that up in August of 2019. That is basically all organic from the Department of Social Services, or Human Services, I should say. We have some outside providers, so it's a little bit different, but we are in the process of getting some in-house, I'll call it, help from the county. It's been a little slow to start with. We had our second graduate on Tuesday, but those have been life-changing changes for not only the participants, but for the children. We've had families reunited while under the program. And I'll tell you, our first graduate and our second graduate, I'm not sure that they would have made the changes necessary in the time they needed to make them had it not been for Family Recovery Court. Often in CHIPS cases, which are Children in Need of Protection Services cases, which I preside over, there is a delay in kind of reviewing how things are going. And both participants indicated that they liked the Family Recovery Court because there was instant responses to any times they might have slipped. We have intensive services we can provide them. And for both of those people, I think that made a huge difference. And because it made a difference for the parents, it's making a difference for the children. And once again, we've had numerous reunifications as well, even though some participants are still in the program and some have fallen out of the program, but have had reunification. So once again, county very involved, Human Services very involved in making that program work. And I think we're starting on the right track to have a bunch of other graduates in the near future. I just want to say two other things. First of all, I know I have a lot of friends that think treatment court for some reason is the easy way out. I would disagree with that. I think that's the hard way out, especially in terms of OWI court and Family Recovery Court, because these folks initially have to come to court every week. They have intensive services, and if they don't do what they need to do one week, they're in front of me the next week, and there's accountability. And I think that helps motivate the folks in terms of doing what they need to do. And if there are problems, we're able to respond immediately. The second thing I'll say is these courts are life-changing courts. It is a lot of hard work, but when we have people graduate, their lives are changed. Not only have they maintained sobriety and they're in recovery, but we often see better family relationships, better employment opportunities, better friends. And I really believe that all of the work that we do will pay off for the community in the long run, because these are changed people, and they are people who are also, as Judge McCrory mentioned, want to help out others. So we are helping these folks be better citizens and better parents, and better siblings, and better members of our community. It's a lot of hard work, but I think in the long run, it pays off. And once again, I think it pays off generational. These folks can finally get some stability, and they can help themselves, but they can also help their family. So thank you so much for all of your support. I know that you guys have been behind this for a long time. I think it is making a difference here in Rock County. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Any questions tonight? I see none. So thank you, Supervisor Beaver and Judges McCrory Hanson, and Hawkinson. Your efforts really are appreciated. Next item, please.
Next item, 8C, to recognize May 2021 as Aging and Disability Resource Center Month.
Moved by Knutson.
Second by Bostwick.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Supervisor Knutson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ADRC is a friendly environment where frail elders and people with disabilities can receive excellent information about services they need assistance with. We would like to recognize all of our great employees who help connect the elderly and disabled with services they need. We appreciate all of your support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Knutson. Next item, please.
Next item, item 9, introduction of new resolutions or ordinances by supervisors for referral to appropriate committee. I did not receive any before the meeting.
Are there any supervisors wishing to bring forward a new resolution at this time? If so, please speak up. Any supervisors wishing to bring forward a new resolution at this time? Seeing none, next item, please.
Next item is item 10, reports. We do not have any reports this evening. Item 11, new business. 11A, supplementary appropriations and budget changes. A1, retaining venture architects for architectural and engineering services for Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Service Jail Renovation Project and amending the Facilities Management 2021 capital budget.
Moved by Supervisor Potter.
Thank you.
Seconded by Gustina.
Supervisor Gustina is a second. Okay.
Only
Supervisor
second.
Potter, would you like to mention a few things or pass it on to someone else?
I'm sorry, who are you addressing there? I think you got covered.
I'm talking to Supervisor Potter to see if he would like to pass the baton off to you or Brent.
Yeah, either Mr. Sutherland or the sheriff is welcome to jump in here.
I guess I've got myself unmuted here, so I'll go quickly. First of all, just like to say thanks here tonight. You know, I know this is a large project. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this process. Certainly want to recognize the team that's been working on this really, really hard. Kurt and Craig and Jude and Chop and Nicole. Barb would be here tonight, but she's not able to. But this process of sitting down and talking about what we hope to accomplish in law enforcement and corrections, talk about the big picture, where we're hoping to get to and how we best accomplish it. You know, this project has allowed us to really ask some of those big questions, and it's been a very, very valuable process, I think, for all of us. And like I said last time, I took a lot of your time. I appreciate the time that you allowed me there. I certainly don't intend to rehash everything here tonight, but I wanted to be here just in case anybody had any questions about operationally the plan. I have got a couple of questions since we last got together. One of them got repeated a couple of times, and I thought maybe other board members would be interested in the answer. The question was basically what happens if we get to the point that our inmate population increases. You know, what is the plan moving forward? And I guess the answer that I gave individually to a couple of the board members here is that there is some flexibility. Some of the cells that we have put into this new program are intended to be built as individual cells. If we really got up against the wall, we could make those a certain number of those double occupancy, maybe somewhere in the ballpark of another 35 for a capacity. Right now, the capacity is in the ballpark of about what we have now, somewhere in that 520s range. That will really be worked out in finer detail during design development. But just to put that into perspective, our population from basically 2010 to 2020 would be somewhere in the ballpark of 410 to the mid 430s. There is a recommendation that with inmate classification that you not fill the jail all the way to capacity. You want to keep a certain percentage of the beds available. I believe that's 20%. So we're in a pretty good spot right now at the population that we're building for to hopefully cover our needs in the near future. And if we do get to that point that we have to expand, we've got some flexibility. Beyond that, we're probably looking at another housing unit, which would, there is area out here on this county complex where we would be able to expand potentially towards the east or even possibly the south. It's a decent sized piece of property, but that was the answer that I gave to a couple of the board members, and I thought maybe others would benefit from that discussion also. But that is all the questions that that I'll address here right now, unless you have some. Brent, if you wanted to go, I guess I'll yield at this point.
Sure. Thank you, Sheriff. The resolution that is there before you is a resolution, and what we're requesting is additional engineering funds to be able to do this from a two-phase project down to a single project. When I say a single project, it's still a project that would start in 2022 and take us through the 2025 for completion. And all of that pieces will be phased, but it really has to be done as one project, as I said before. So as we talked about at our last county board meeting, this is the resolution needed now for the additional engineering funds to move forward. And we budgeted $4,360,000. And it was actually $3,080,000 for this first part of it. And then the second phase coming in together was the additional $3,080,000 for that phase. And our shortfall was $1,800,000. And that's the part that this resolution is just authorizing to use last year's sales tax to cover the shortfall for the engineering to move this forward as one project.
Okay, are there any questions? Are there any questions for Brent or Roy? Supervisor Stevens.
Yes, this is something that's been discussed long before I got here. So I just have a question about what exactly will Venture Architects be doing? The full build out of the jail? What can you explain to me exactly what?
Yes. So Venture Architect does, typically it's about 8% of a project cost for engineering. So what they'll actually do is they start off with is they develop the budget. They work through with the team. So Venture has actually done, we did a little bit of conceptual design in the first phase of this, the jail portion of which was actually part of the second phase. So what they do is they sit down with the whole team. They put together the conceptual. They also did the county's master plan. But for that engineering fees, they will actually design the building, put together construction blueprints, documents. They'll follow through the entire project to make sure things are done accordingly. But they literally design the building and the construction documents so that the contractors can build knows exactly how to build it.
Okay, so that's what I just wanted to make sure. They're the ones who actually design it, but they're not the ones who are going to actually build it, the construction portion.
No.
And we're not at that place where we have even voted on it, or even decided who's getting the contract on the construction. Is that correct?
Correct. So the project what would happen is once the construction documents were together, we would then go out for bid. And at that point, we will once the bids are all collected and evaluated, then a resolution will go to the General Services Committee to review the documents and the resolution and vote on that. And then it would go to the full board to do the final vote on that. I do plan to look at a construction for a project like this that'll be coming back, talking to the board about, which would also be included in this engineering funds.
Okay. And so then my other question is, because of course I'm new to the board and I'm not sure how all of this works. And this is just kind of jumping ahead because I'm just curious how this works. does Rock County have anything, is there anything in where we have in contracts where anyone who gets any kind of contracts with Rock County, construction contracts or anything like that, they have to make sure they work with minority vendors? Is that in any of the contract work that we do?
The only time that language was in the contracts that we've done is when we had, when we use state and federal dollars. Federal dollars do require us to actually solicit right to the minority and women-owned businesses. And we've done that. The state statute actually spells out where we don't give a preference to any organization or group. So we're kind of following the state statutes that way.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Supervisor Yeomans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to Brent, and this is going to be a 4-year project, and as somebody that wrote a letter to us to be read earlier, was indicating that we're at a high point for lumber and steel and pretty much everything to do with construction because of some dissimilarities between supply and demand that are expected to be temporary. If this is a 4-year project, and I'm wanting to know when it's going to go out for bid, number one, and number two, if there's going to be any way that we can try and calculate a variance in terms of the cost of lumber and steel and all the other construction materials over the 4-year period. If they go down, would we be able to benefit? And if they go up, would the contractor be able to benefit? I'm just kind of wondering what the plan is for bidding this out and whether that's taken into consideration.
Yeah, so when we get ready to bid out, first of all, we're planning somewhere around June, which is a little aggressive for 2022. So we're probably a little bit later by the time we're ready for that. But what we can do is we can, just like we did with the Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, we looked at what the market was doing and picking the right times to bid. So if we start seeing steel and lumber, we can certainly be monitoring that and seeing if there's any changes or if it's stagnant and try to make the best decision we possibly can. It's really hard to tell when the way things are going when it goes up and down, but we certainly can watch that and by that saying we could delay it, by some like a few months anyway, or whatever it takes to try to do the best we can. I don't know if that really answers your question, but some of it is hard to project, but I do see where, this quickly coming out, could ultimately change pretty within the next year.
So, excuse me, as a follow-up, Brent, you don't have an estimated time to get the bid specs out to the contractors?
No, we were hoping for June of 22, but we were already, we're close with the conceptual, but I would have to say probably August of 22.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to retain Venture Architects for architectural and engineering services for Sheriff's Office Law Enforcement Services / Jail Renovation Project and amending the Facilities Management 2021 capital budget. This is roll call. Lisa, if you would please.
Agutter,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Renish,
Yes.
Rashkin,
Yes.
Gustina,
Yes.
Yeomans,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Podzilny,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Baumkamp,
Yes.
Pam Bostwick,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Pier,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Mulvaney, Mulligan,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Wildy, Sweeney,
Yes.
Beaver,
Yes.
Potter,
Yes.
Schulz,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Rich Bostwick.
Yes.
Do you want to double check with Mulvaney?
Supervisor Wood is having some technical difficulties trying to call back in.
Twenty-six yes, 2 absent, 1 vacant.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is item 11C, ordering discontinuation of the Rockhaven mandated COVID-19 vaccination policy.
Moved by Knutson.
Second by Potter.
Who was the second? I didn't catch that. Lisa, did you?
Fox.
Brent? Okay, thank you, Brent. Okay, Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think everything's outlined in the resolution and really nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, anybody?
First, could we have supervisors that are not muted, please mute?
Yeah, we're getting a little cross action there. Everybody good? Okay, Supervisor Agater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions and comments, but I think I'll just start with one thing and then give other people a chance to maybe ask some of the same questions that I have. So, sorry, I wrote down a bunch of notes so that I try to stay brief. So there's a lot going on in the news with vaccine mandates right now. We all got the email about the Washington Post article that mentioned us and the threats that many employers are receiving, but we've also probably all heard that Delta Airlines announced that they are requiring all new employees to get the vaccine. And so I know a little bit about Delta Airlines because they're held up as a company that has a strong servant leadership culture and a culture of excellence. And I work for a company that values servant leadership, and it sends us to a workshop every year on servant leadership. And Delta, I know, is one of the ones that they often use as an example. So I looked up Delta Airlines core values, and their honesty, integrity, and respect. First 3 things they list, same as ours. And so I just wanted to say that, today on WPR, they were interviewing the president of SHRM, that's the HR, so you guys have probably all heard of that organization, about whether employers should mandate vaccines or not. He said it really depends on your culture. And I just want to point out that we want to have a culture of excellence at the county, and we want to, a big part of that is creating a safe work environment. And with that, I know that there are employees at Rockhaven who value the workplace safety that the COVID vaccine mandate provides. And so I have a question for Corporation Counsel, whether our repeal of the mandate could result hypothetically in a lawsuit from employees who value that workplace safety that the vaccine mandate provides.
So these are they're really challenging questions to answer with any kind of degree of certainty. So obviously, we're all aware of the claim that's been filed currently against the county from a group of employees who were laid off. Is it possible that if we were to reverse the mandate, an employee could file suit against us for an unsafe work environment? It's possible. The likelihood on the merits of that kind of lawsuit, I would say at this point, is hard to quantify. Obviously, many employers everywhere have had the opportunity to mandate vaccines, and they haven't, including many healthcare employers. So we would not be unique, in that stance. Many nursing homes across the state and across the country have not mandated the vaccine, and so currently have workforces that are not required to take the vaccine. So I don't see a legal landscape that flashes red lights, with regard to those kinds of actions. But of course, I think that the issue of vaccines and requirements for employees or for residents or any number of things is a very charged issue. It can be very divisive, and there are people impassioned, certainly on both sides. And all it takes is one to decide to file suit, and they can do so.
Thank you. And along those lines, I mentioned the Washington Post article, and hopefully you'll have the chance to read that and read about the law firm that's seeking exactly those types of clients and making those threats against employers. But also, we are seeing more and more employers step up and say they are going to mandate, including some of our local, well, I guess I only know rumors, but I think we will see a lot more in the near future. So I don't know. I think this resolution is problematic. I think we can all agree that the way the mandate was done was not good. It was not well led. This is not how we lead change, by leaving people out of the discussions and doing things abruptly at the holidays and this and that. But I think we can also agree that COVID is not going away, and we have a vulnerable population who are responsible, and this is a life or death decision. That these COVID vaccines are overwhelmingly safe and effective, and that also it's been reported this week that cases and hospitalizations, the rates of cases and hospitalizations among unvaccinated people are similar to the rates that we saw across the whole population in January. And that's partly due to the variants that are more contagious, but we're seeing really good evidence that the vaccines are effective in preventing death and a lot less hospitalizations among vaccinated people. I would like to give a few other people a chance to talk. I do have some ideas, but I'm sure there are other people that have thoughts on this.
Thank you, Supervisor Eggeter. Supervisor Yeomans.
Thank you, Rich. I have a few questions too. On line 3, it indicates that there have been 165 cases in the jail. And on line 5, it indicates there have been 13 cases in Rockhaven. It's my understanding that those 13 cases were all prior to the effective vaccination and mandated by all employees, and that after that, there have been no cases. I'm wondering which exactly is being unfairly treated by the county, whether it's the risk that the jail correctional officers are being put exposed to, or is it the Rockhaven people who now work in a facility with no COVID? And I'm wondering if we shouldn't amend this to say that we should mandate the COVID for the people who take care of the prisoners. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Yeomans. Supervisor.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Holman, when you have opportunity. Thank
You
you.
will be after Supervisor Taylor, Supervisor Holman. Jacob?
Thank you. So it was my understanding last time when this mandate went into effect that employees were put on layover, and then after, or not layover, or they were laid off, and after they got their vaccine, their employment could be restored. Are there still employees that are fitting that status? So if we were to make this decision tonight, would these employees immediately have their old jobs back from months ago, or would they have to go through the same hiring process as a new employee?
This is Annette from HR. So we do still have some employees who are on layoff status. So of the original group of employees that went on layoff status, we did have quite a few of them come back, either through using one of the accommodations that was provided by the county board, either through religious, disability, ADA, or pregnancy. Of the staff, and then some of them have chosen to get the vaccine since. There are still some staff on layoff. In some of those positions, the positions have been filled. So if an employee was laid off from, for example, a CNA position, we have a variety of CNA openings. Might not be the same unit, the same FTE, or the same shift, but we do have options available. Some positions that are more where we have less number of vacancies, like for example, a cook, we do not have an opening. So the employee would stay on layoff status until we had a vacancy for them to return to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Holman, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, I'm going to have to direct this to court counsel. Sir, I understand the complaints and that have been filed against the county. And what I'm concerned about is, I know our state years ago was made as a right to work state. And I understand that if I don't like your dog, I don't like your cat, I don't like your mother-in-law, whatever you want to put it, I don't like the way you dress, I can fire you. Our county, we're charged in the care of the people who live and reside in Rockhaven. The employees have the privilege to help those people in their illnesses and their well-being, their care. And I understand their problem with getting vaccines. I understand that. We are not forcing a person to get it. We're not holding the needle over them saying you get it or you don't keep your job. But looking at the history of our state and the argument of right to work, if the employees choose not to, they always have the right to go look for better employment. The people who live there don't have that opportunity to say who's taking care of them. We are charged in their betterment, their care. Our responsibility, is it or is it not, to give them the absolute best care that we can, and that including is the shot. Is that something that as a county we need to say to the employee that you will do this as a service to these people who live there, to take care of yourself and them who have no choice in the matter at this point because they are residents of this institution or home that they reside in. Because we all have a right to get a different job if we so choose. We do. I mean, that's how it is. But as an employer, can we stand there and this mandate stand and say, we expect this of our employees to take care of yourself in the best way you can to take care of the people you are in charge of taking care of. So in looking at that right to work question, where is the county at this point? Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Holman. I think Supervisor Richard, your hand was up next. Rick, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was a mistake. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Supervisor Beaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I promised myself I was not going to speak tonight. However, I gotta. So we all know where I stand on this. I don't think anybody should be mandated to have a shot. I'm sorry, you should not have to be forced to have a shot. So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, since we're talking about, you know, there are residents out there are, you know, they're sickly. We don't want them to catch anything. So what about all the other employees in our county that go into people's homes where you may have compromised immune systems, where you're going in to visit, you know, children under 12, where, you know, it could be said, you know, everybody in Rock County should have a shot then, all employees. Why are we singling out this one department other than, you know, yes, it's a nursing home, and I get that. But like I said, you got employees going into other people's homes, whether it's childcare, you know, the CPS people or the sheriff's office or, you know, whoever it may be. We are interacting with public people all the time. You know, your judges, you're in court, your DAs, you know, Lisa, all the people you interact with, I'm picking on you, you know, daily, you interact with a lot of people, and we all do at some point. However, you know, are we just going to hand out, you know, vaccines then to all the county employees and say, you know, you get a shot, I get a shot, you get a shot? You know, are you going to mandate it then for the county board people when we come back? Because, you know, let's face it, I have a compromised immune system, and I'm going to be in a building where, you know, you guys can all bring it into me and possibly, you know, take me out. So I think it's a whole bigger picture than what we're seeing. You know, I don't think anybody should mandate it. You know, it's your choice to have it. And yes, they have had they've had COVID out at the nursing home since the mandate. So that's not a true statement. They've had it out there since then. So having everybody vaccinated, you know, did not stop it from being in. And I know that some of you will argue with me up and down. We all know that diseases can last on surfaces days sometimes. And are we, you know, bringing it in on that stuff? You know, it's a big picture, and I truly, honestly don't believe that we should have to have this shot, because face it, guys, in 6 months they're talking a booster now. You know, so 6 months down the line, are you going to mandate the booster then for everybody too?
Oh.
And I get it. You know, the airlines is you know, mandating their employees get the shot. You know, and that's, you know, that's an independent. You know, it's not a county-owned, county-run business. It's independent, run by CEOs who are making a lot of money, and they want those airplanes filled up. So, you know, is it going to come back? You bet. I mean, all viruses make a circle of some sort. Having the shot's not going to take away your chance of getting COVID. It's like the flu, the influenza shot. It will lessen the effects. It's not going to say you're not going to get it now. That's not true. And if you believe that, you need to do some fact finding, because it is just like doing an influenza shot. You can still get the influenza. You just may not die from it. You know, and it's the same thing with COVID. It may lessen the degree of what you get COVID, but you can still get it and you can still pass it on. So even though I have a shot and I work at Rockhaven, and I walk into Rockhaven one day and all of a sudden I just don't feel good. Well, guess what? I have COVID and I brought it in. Even though I had the vaccine. I have my little card that says that. It's still out there. You can still get it. You can still transmit it. And I think we need to, you know, realize that, yeah, we're here for everybody in Rock County. We got to look at that big picture. And like I said, if you're going to mandate it here, then we need to mandate it everywhere. All Rock County employees should have that COVID shot, and you're going to have an uprising like you've never seen. So that's just my opinion. I said I wasn't going to talk tonight, but, you know, I had to. So, you know, don't hang me out somewhere. Those are just my personal opinions, nobody else's. I have a disclaimer. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor Beaver. Supervisor Stevens was the next hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at the resolution here, and I wanted to go back to something, well, some of what Mary said, Supervisor Beaver said, and Supervisor Yeoman said. And looking at this resolution here, it says, it is the policy of the county to treat all employees equitably and fairly in matters affecting their employment. And when Supervisor Yeomans was pointing out the numbers, and he mentioned that the amount of cases at the jail, and when I was looking at this information yesterday, I said, it sounds like someone has made a great case to mandate the vaccine at the jail, to me, is what it sounds like. When reading that line in the resolution. And then when Supervisor Beaver was talking and saying, well, then what about all employees? I mean, if we're doing this, then are we going to mandate for all of the Rock County employees? And that would mean us, right? So, so then that becomes the slope you start going down when you're talking about a mandatory vaccine. Now, for me, that's not, I just wanted to mention that. For me, that's not really the issue though. For me, the issue is I got the vaccine. I did. I got it at one and done. I wanted to be done. I didn't want to go through that whole first, second. But I was one of the people who wanted to wait, get more information, make sure I was making an informed decision. I was very apprehensive to get the vaccine. I didn't want to feel pushed. I didn't want to feel forced. I wanted to come at it from a place of feeling educated when I made my decision to do it. I feel like these mandatory vaccines, that approach is just not the right approach. I feel like what I'm seeing, and particularly in the Black community has had a very difficult time being sold on this vaccine. And the approach that's being made is one of education. It's one of, let's get the information out there. Let's let people know it's safe, it's effective somewhat. And as we educate people, people are coming around, right? And that's the approach that people are taking instead of saying you have to get the vaccine. And it worked for me because originally I was like, I'm not getting that vaccine, forget it. So I just feel like if there had been a completely different approach to this, all the employees probably would have gotten the vaccine. So I will say that being somebody who originally said she was not going to get the vaccine and then taking my time and getting this information and going at it from a much more informed approach myself and then eventually getting it, I cannot in good faith, being somebody herself who was not going to allow somebody else to force me to get a vaccine, I cannot in good faith continue to push a mandatory vaccine. I'm just going to say that.
Thank you, Supervisor Stevens. Supervisor Renish.
Yes, I could talk for about an hour on this, but I will do you all a favor and not. I will just say that healthcare workers should not be lumped into the same group as other workers, i.e. cashiers, construction workers, even flight attendants and pilots. I mean, healthcare workers take an oath to protect their patient. Period. There's no yeah buts. There's no, well, if this or if that. Your job is to protect your patients. If you can't do that, find another job. Period. Also, I just want it known that there are quite a few differences between COVID and the flu. The mortality rate itself is, they're estimating 50 to 100 times higher with COVID. And when you do get vaccinated, yes, you do drastically cut the chances that you're going to spread that to someone else. That's been proven in the last 3 weeks. So there are some old statistics that sounds like maybe are still in some people's heads that have been proven false. So just, let's take a little time. Let's research this. Let's really figure this out, because I think there is going to be an uprising of people who do value their friends and relatives in Rockhaven being taken care of right now. And if we abolish this tonight, yeah, there is going to be an uprising on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Renish. Supervisor Yeomans, your hand is still up. Is that a holdover, or did you want to say something
No,
more?
I put it down and then put it back up again so I could ask a couple more questions. If we stop, if we feel that it's not our role to mandate COVID-19 shots for Rockhaven, where do we stand then on the flu shots? Because it's my understanding we mandate flu shots as well. That's my first question. My second question is, if we allow staff to come back in without having had their flu shots, will we have a separate personal protection protocol for them so that our patients continue to be protected? Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Yeomans. There was a question there. I don't know if someone would like to reply to that.
I can try to address the flu shot question just based on history. So we've had a history at Rockhaven sort of up and down on flu shot requirements. I think we're learning these days, what does it mean to require something? And is it really a requirement? For example, we currently do not require the flu shot. We had moved in the last flu season to quote unquote required, and then during the leadership transition this year we didn't require it. When we have required it, what that has meant has been people have been required to get it, but if they didn't, they had to take extra precautions. In previous seasons, the precautions have required masking, for example, that we are much more familiar with these days. And so in that way, the ramification of not getting a flu shot was you had to wear a mask and other PPE potentially throughout the flu season. So that's the best explanation I can give about the history of the flu shot and requirements at Rockhaven.
I believe there was a second part to Supervisor Yeoman's statement.
Correct. If I can just say that similar to the mask requirement, if you choose not to get a flu shot, will there be a requirement for our protocol for protecting the patients based on the not getting the COVID-19 shot?
Yeah, I guess my response to that would be it'd be a little speculative, and it would depend on what happens tonight or status of COVID, in the future.
Supervisor Yeomans, do you have anything more?
Thank you, Rich. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Knudsen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a major surgery in October. It was off October, November, December. While I was in the hospital, I asked my doctors, nurses, and physical therapists, are you required to have the vaccine? And they all said no, but yet they all felt safe, 100%. They all utilized PPE gear. I was very appreciative of it. They're wonderful people. They all said it was voluntarily, whether you got the vaccination or not. I was not required to have the vaccine prior to my surgery. I hadn't even had the vaccine yet. I was in the hospital with nurses who floated from floor to floor, from the COVID floor to my room. They assured me I was safe. I knew I was safe. They had PPE gear on. I've never been opposed to the vaccine, never. I had the vaccine. I was opposed to the mandatory vaccine. Still am opposed to mandatory vaccines now, right from day one. But it was a personal choice, not a conditional use of employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Knudsen. Supervisor Stevens, do you have another comment or question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I read the urgent memorandum that was sent on April 19, 2021 by Natalie, and I thought I saw Natalie here earlier, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so I apologize. And I just remembered to go back to it when Supervisor Renich was speaking. So based on this memorandum, it looks to me, and then again, when Supervisor Knudsen was speaking, it reminded me to look at it because as he was saying, he felt safe. Staff was wearing PPE gear. And they weren't required to get the vaccine, but yet he felt safe, they felt safe, the nurses were moving back and forth. I'm looking at the protocols that were mentioned. Did anybody else read the April 19th urgent memorandum that Natalie sent? She talked about the guidelines that they're following. And I was just wondering with I shouldn't say only because 13 is too many. If the difference between the 13 cases at Rockhaven and the 165 cases at the jail is the difference between the guidelines that Rockhaven is following in the jail. I don't know. I mean, a jail is a jail and a medical facility is a medical facility. So yes, medical folks who work in the medical field are there to take care of people, and that's their job. It is their job, and they know how to do their job. And they were doing their job before COVID. They were doing their job before the pandemic. And I don't believe that they're somehow going to get sloppy and not do their job and not want to continue to care for people and give the highest quality of care and protect people because of COVID. So what I'm reading in the memorandum that Natalie sent out, one of the key points that jumps out me is she says, we conduct a rigorous sanitation regimen that follows and in some cases exceeds all state and federal guidelines. This includes increasing the daily volume of cleaning done in common medical and residential areas. All protective and medical equipment are thoroughly cleaned and disinfected according to manufacturer instructions. And she went through a lot of that. So I don't want to diminish Natalie's ability as the new nursing home administrator to make sure that her and her team can do the job to take care of the residents there without a mandatory vaccine? Because it feels like some of the comments have alluded to the fact that Natalie is not capable of doing the best job possible to protect the people at Rockhaven without a mandatory vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Stevens. Supervisor Taylor again.
Thank you. I was just curious, going back to the question of flu shots and differing safety protocols based on vaccines. Could that be expanded to other departments? So what's been talked a lot is the sheriff's, the jail. Could the board or the sheriff's office require specifically non-vaccinated employees to continue mask wearing even as we roll back our mask mandate and maybe vaccinated employees don't? Is it possible to distinguish those employees in other departments, either as a board or a department?
I guess I can take a kind of swipe at that. It's a little bit of a complex question. So I'm kind of shooting at the dark of kind of what exactly you're getting at, Supervisor Taylor. But so in general, the board is the employing authority for the county and can set the conditions for employment. Now, it delegates a lot of that responsibility to HR and to the administration and to individual departments to come up with employment qualifications that they think will best suit the job functions that they need to execute, right? So in general, the board has the policy-making authority to set the qualifications for employment. In order to set a qualification standard that has the potential of excluding employees that may be subject to a disability from the employment environment, we need to meet a safety standard. And that safety standard means that we have to establish that without the qualification, there would be a direct threat to employee or client health in order to have a safety standard that excludes employees from being present in the workplace. So if we apply that to vaccines with the COVID vaccination, that analysis looks like COVID represents a direct threat to our workforce. It also represents a direct threat to the individuals that are being served in particular locations in our workforce. And so because of that status, we are able to have a qualification standard that says you must get a COVID-19 vaccination. That safety standard is individualized depending on the specific work functions that the employee is executing. So for at Rockhaven, that's fairly simple because everyone who works in the building has the capability of having a mass outbreak in a communal residential setting. And so the standard is pretty easy to meet so long as you work in the building. I would argue that in terms of just legal bar, that standard is also able to be met in places like the jail or the YSC, where we have a communal setting that individuals are living in very close quarters with not a lot of ability to social distance. We try as best as we can, of course, but it's difficult. That doesn't mean that we have to have that standard. And that policy decision without action of the board is delegated to the policymakers in charge of administering those facilities. So, with the YSC, that's Director of Human Services or the superintendent of the YSC. With the jail, that is the sheriff. There is a whole other layer of the onion with regard to the jail that I could get into if people are really wanting me to, but it involves the Constitution and the powers of the sheriff. And we're not really talking about that tonight, so I'm going to skip it unless I get specifically asked about it later. With regard to other types of standards, right, like over masks and things like that, the analysis, is similar. I will say that given the status of the CDC's requirement on masking or the advice on masking, and given the difficulty in determining who is vaccinated and who isn't, and then of enforcing that standard, a masking standard across county employment or applied to specific departments could be very, very, very difficult to administer and could potentially create a lot of headache, both on the administration side and potential liability under the ADA or other, discrimination provisions, to try and go in and micromanage that situation, with individual departments or the board telling department heads in this department you have to have masks, but not telling this department that they have to have masks, and trying to establish what the difference is between the status of those employees. Now with the nursing home, it's different. We have very clear guidance from both the CDC and the State Division of Quality Assurance about what we are supposed to do and the standards that we are required to meet. And that also includes the use of PPE. So it includes the use of masks, it includes the use of gowns, it includes the use of social distancing and universal precautions. And I can see Natalie, raising her hand right now and probably going to tell me exactly what it includes. And so beyond even what the board might say is required as a basis for employment, we have best practices that we have to obey in the nursing home in order to make sure that we stay qualified and that we avoid any potential issues with our surveyors as they come in. And so I guess with that, I would hand it off to Natalie and let her kind of expand on that as best she can.
Okay, Natalie.
My name is Natalie Rowland Edelbeck. We are governed by the Centers for the Medicare and Medicaid Services. So even though whatever decision, ladies and gentlemen, that is made tonight, as a nursing home that is receiving federal dollars, we will continue to follow the Centers of Medicare rules and regulatory guidance governing how we mask and how we don our PPE while we're in a global pandemic. Currently, we are in an outbreak. We have no one that is currently positive for COVID. However, we have to test twice a week until we have 100% of staff, employees, and residents testing negative for COVID. And that is governed by the Center of Medicare and Medicaid of what we must do. So again, ladies and gentlemen, whatever decision you make tonight, as a nursing home, we will still follow the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid rules for how we govern and how we wear our PPE and how many times we test and our social distancing and visitation. And I'd like to call your attention to the Center of Medicare and Medicaid revised policy. It's reference QSO-20-39 for nursing homes. It originally came out in September 17, 2020, and it was revised on April 27, 2021. Thank you. If there's any questions, I am here to answer your questions.
Okay, Natalie is opening herself up to questions. Before I get to the other people with their hands up, are there questions for Natalie at this point? Okay, Supervisor Yeomans. Okay.
I just have a question for Natalie. Are you moving on?
No,
moving on?
Get in there, Supervisor. Okay. Gina, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. Is it Edelbeck? I'm sorry.
It's okay, ma'am. Just Natalie, okay. But it is actually Edelbeck, but Natalie's fine.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any updated information from the memorandum you sent out on April 19th?
Actually, ma'am, those memorandums change often. We have received sent out another memorandum, but yes. Okay. As the outbreak continues for visitation, we have to let the families and the community know what's going on. And we have posted those updates out on Facebook. We've posted that we've sent out letters to families, and we've also put them on our break room areas. But everything that I govern tonight is the information, the most current information from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid governing visitation, outbreak, and how we wear our PPE.
Okay. So the one that I read from the 19th, I just found that one on our website. I'm not sure why that one was there, but I didn't find any other ones. How many currently folks, you said that you currently don't have any folks who are testing positive, who are positive for COVID at this time? Is that what
Actually,
you said?
that's correct, ma'am. What I stated was we had one resident that tested positive. He had to go through a 10-day window. No other employees or residents tested positive. However, by the Center of Medicare and Medicaid, when we are in an outbreak mode, we still must govern to do so many tests a week, twice a week, until we have 100% of residents free and employees free. So we just tested today. We must have 100%. So ma'am, that 100% is all of our employees, all of our agency employees, all of our pool employees. So we just have some employees who work on the weekend. So before we can raise our hand and say we can accept visitation, indoor visitations, 100%, we must have 100% test COVID free. And if we don't, unfortunately, families are disappointed because the visitations, we cannot do the indoor visitations. We would have to do outside visitations, a window visitation, or vestibule visitation. And that's not anything that's governed by the facility, the county, the state. That is governed by the federal government.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Supervisor Stevens. I guess we're back to Supervisor Agater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Rowling Edelbeck. Did I say it right? Thank you so much. So I probably should have started with, no, that was really great discussion. I'm really enjoying this and seeing where people are at. And yes, it's a very contentious issue. COVID itself, unfortunately, is a very contentious issue. I think a lot of things were brought up in that discussion. One thing that really stands out to me is like the differences, like when we talk about Rockhaven and other departments, like the differences from department to department to department. And this was a big thing that comes up like with the Blue Ribbon Commission, for example, when we're looking at an organization that's going to evaluate policies from department to department. And I know Annette had questions like, how are you going to do that? Because the departments are so vastly different. We're talking different demographics. We're talking different, really, really different things that all these departments do. And so it's a good segue here to my main issue with the board taking this up at all is that we have really qualified department leaders, and we've selected a wonderful department leader for the nursing home. We have a new administrator. We need to set her up for success. We need to make sure that during this pandemic, we have as many tools in her toolbox as possible. Right now, the decision about whether to require vaccination for COVID is hers. You know, she may or may not choose to do that, but we say, you're the expert, go for it. Manage your department, manage your nursing home, manage our nursing home, and do what's best for the residents. And you're the expert. And so it just has always bothered me, and this is why I pushed back with the first resolution, that we as a board, not being experts in the management of a nursing home or in pandemic response, would want to do something so in it as to take away the right to require a vaccination. And the flu vaccine has been brought up. It's not really a good comparison. We already can see that the COVID vaccine is more effective than flu vaccines, which definitely kind of vary from year to year, but and COVID is more deadly. So like one of my biggest concerns is that if we do this resolution, like COVID doesn't go away. we know more and more and more and more about COVID. We already know so much more in just the last 3 weeks. And we know way more than when we had this discussion in January. And, you know, we're talking, you know, half a year down the road, like we know this isn't going away. Why would we want to have that tool out of the toolbox? We want them to be able to require it the same way they're allowed to require flu shots and other things, tuberculosis tests, all the things that I'm definitely not an expert on because I don't work in healthcare, but I know that sort of thing is important. And I do know that some of our local other places are considering this to be mandated going forward, especially once it's FDA approved. So long story short, okay, not short at all. So my point here is that I would like to make an amendment to this resolution. I'm going to pull it up so I can give you the line numbers. Okay. So line 18. So the sentence is, the end of the sentence says Rockhaven mandated discontinuation of the Rockhaven mandated COVID-19 vaccination policy. I'd like to add until the FDA approves the vaccine. And this is not us saying that they need to mandate it at that time. This is us saying that they'll have that tool back in their toolbox. And so then following that next sentence, that same which the next sentence, which starts on line 18, Rockhaven may not require staff to receive a COVID-19 vaccine until the vaccine is FDA approved.
Supervisor Yeomans will second.
Lisa, are you getting all that? Good. I think you're muted, but you nodded, so yeah. Okay. We have an amendment and a second discussion. Supervisor Knudsen.
On the original resolution, I had a question, but I will call a question on the amendment.
Okay. We have Supervisor Knudsen calling the question. Is there a second to that?
Fox seconds the question.
Okay. All right. The question has been called. I believe we go to a roll call vote. Is that right? Mr.
Well, it has to pass by 2/3. It doesn't technically have to be by roll call, but the chair would have to have the ability to determine if 2/3 of the body is in favor. So it's one of those things where if you call for the voice vote and there's no dissension, then obviously 2/3 of the body is in favor. But if there is dissension, it becomes difficult to determine whether it was 2/3 or not 2/3. So roll call.
Mr. Chair, I think you better make it clear. Are we voting on the amendment or the original motion? Because there is an amendment on the floor.
We are voting on ending discussion by calling the question. That's what's in front of us now. In fact, Lisa, would you please clarify for us?
We're calling the question on the original motion.
No. We're calling the question on the amendment.
But to be clear, the motion is to call the question. So the motion is to end debate. So if you vote yes, you want debate to end on the amendment and to vote immediately after on the amendment without any further debate.
Correct.
Okay, is everyone clear on that?
No, because I'm not quite sure what the amendment is exactly. So if someone can clarify what the amendment is.
So
I know.
we can't clarify what the amendment is during this vote because it's a vote to end the debate, and that is a part of
Right.
debate. So there's been a first and a second to end debate. We need to take a vote to end debate. If individuals want additional information about the amendment, then they should vote no to end debate.
Okay, are we clear?
Okay.
Lisa, if you would read the roll, please.
Sweeney,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Moeni,
Yes.
Wildy, Fox,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Pierre,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Justina,
Yes.
Yeomans,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Egger,
No.
Mulligan,
Yes.
Stevens,
Um,
Baumkamp,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Taylor,
No.
Renish,
No.
Potter,
Yes.
Pam Bostwick,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Podzilny,
Yes.
Scholes, Rashkin,
Yes.
Beaver,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Rich Bostwick,
No.
Lisa, my answer was no.
Thank you. Twenty-one yes, 6 no, 1 vacant.
Okay, so we're now.
I'm
vo-
sorry,
We are now
1
voting.
absent.
Okay,
Let me double check. Hold on a second.
yeah, take your time.
Twenty-one yes, 6 no, 1 absent, 1 vacant. Thank you for letting me double check.
Okay, so at this point, we move ahead with voting on the amendment without discussion.
Correct. Now, you should read back the amendment.
Please do. Lisa, if you would, please.
Yes. Starting on, I'll start at 16, just so we have the whole part. Now therefore be it resolved that the Rock County Board of Supervisors duly assembled this date orders the discontinuation of the Rockhaven mandated COVID-19 vaccination policy until the FDA approves the vaccine. Rockhaven may not require staff to receive a COVID-19 vaccine until the vaccine is FDA approved, and will recall those employees on layoff status due to the mandated vaccine policy in accordance with the Rock County policy, Rock County Personnel Ordinance and Policy and Procedures Manual.
Okay, we don't have any opportunity for question at this point, so we'll go right into the roll call. Lisa, if you would, please.
Sweeney,
No.
Pierre,
No.
Taylor,
Yes.
Potter,
No.
Pam Bostwick,
No.
Knutson,
No.
Levy,
No.
Davis,
No.
Beaver,
No.
Podzilny,
No.
Wilson,
Did you say Wilson?
yes, Wilson,
No.
Mawiney,
No.
Richard,
No.
Williams,
No.
Shirley,
No.
thank you. Fox,
No.
Yeomans,
Yes.
Egger,
yes,
Renish,
Yes.
Brian,
No.
Scholes,
No.
Stevens,
Abstain.
Baumkamp,
No.
Holman,
No.
Reshkin,
No.
Justina,
No.
Mulligan,
Yes.
Rich Bostwick,
Yes.
6 yes, 20 no, 1 absent, 1 abstain.
Okay, the amendment fails. We're back to the original resolution. Any further discussion on that before we vote?
I call the question.
Can we stop calling questions and trying to push through votes without discussion?
I believe I called the question is on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Corp Counsel, is it acceptable to do that without any discussion? Is that
Yep.
permissible?
Immoral.
All right, the question has been called to proceed with the vote. Or rather, to cut off debate on the original resolution, excuse me. So Lisa, if you would go ahead.
Podzilny,
No.
so we're voting on calling the question, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So to call the question to end debate, would that be a yes? If you don't want to call the question to end debate, then no, is that correct?
We're voting on the resolution now.
No, we're voting on the motion to call the previous question. So we're voting to end debate at this moment.
Yes.
He voted no.
Knutson,
No.
Beer,
No.
Scholes,
No.
Baumkamp,
Yes.
Potter,
Yes.
Renish,
No.
Williams,
Sorry, I need a clarification on that. A yes vote means I'm saying let's end debate, and a no vote means I'm saying not to.
That's correct.
Okay. No.
Reshkin,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Egger,
no,
Mulligan,
Yes.
Yeomans,
Yes.
Davis. Wes,
Yes.
Pam Boswick,
Yes.
Gustina,
Yes.
Mo Winnie,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Beaver,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Wilson,
No.
Sweeney,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Taylor,
No.
Bostwick, Rich Bostwick.
No.
Seventeen yes, 10 no, 1 absent.
Okay, so I believe that puts us back voting on the regular resolution without any further debate. Am I correct in?
I had 2/3 at 18. Lisa, is that what?
I think we need 19.
Yeah, so it failed.
It failed. Okay, so discussion can continue on the original resolution. Any supervisors with comments or questions at this point? Supervisor Knudsen, I saw your hand up and down and now back up. Are you wishing to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question for Corp Counsel. I'm just strictly playing devil's advocate, especially in light of the national attention to this. What made Rock County so different from other municipalities across the country that we found it necessary to mandate and others didn't? The second question is, how was it that Rock County specifically was more vulnerable to liability than so many other municipalities, including hospitals and major health organizations across the country?
I'll be honest, to answer that question with any kind of specificity would be a lot of speculation on my part. I mean, I can describe the decision-making process that I was involved in, how that was different than other municipalities and their decision-making processes. I don't really know. You know, I know that we did it via convening myself, Sarah Barron, Amy Spoden, and Josh Smith, and a number of different discussions about what a mandate would look like and what it would mean, and then resulted in us needing to make a very quick decision after we were notified of the first vaccine clinic that would be offered, you know, for the county. You know, we've outlined kind of that decision-making process pretty frequently, and certainly if there are questions about it, I'm happy to answer them again, or new questions about it, and certainly happy to do that. But I have not been privy to any of the other municipalities' decision-making processes, so I don't really know why they decided to go in the directions that they did. You know, additionally, why was Rock County more vulnerable than other entities that also mandated the vaccine? You know, to be frank, I think probably some of it was the national attention that we got because the vaccine mandate was thrust in front of our board fairly quickly. And that was a very public process. And that provided opportunity for publicity. And there were lots of news articles written about it. And that probably drew the attention of some individuals. Now, without that, would we have still gotten, you know, demand letters from law firms and employees that sought out legal counsel and filed a claim and will potentially file legal action? You know, it's impossible for me to say, but it's certainly still possible that that would have happened, if not likely. So I think a number of different agencies across the country, as the Washington Post article that was circulated earlier this week made clear, is there is a coordinated effort, you know, from people who do not believe that a vaccine mandate should be appropriate for the government. They have a coordinated effort across the country to try and challenge those mandates. And regardless of kind of what happened, by having a mandate, we were going to be a target for that.
Brian? Brian, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Does that answer your question enough?
It does, thank you.
Sure. Supervisor Agater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is that there was another county-run nursing home that did a vaccine mandate. Josh, you had said something.
Yes, during the discussions previously, we did get information that Fond du Lac had issued a similar requirement. They also had exceptions at the time, but I personally have not followed up on that since those original discussions where we relayed that information to you.
Supervisor Agater, okay. Supervisor Knutson, I see your hand is up. Is that a holdover or do you have something more?
This is a holdover. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments at this point?
Supervisor Holman.
Okay, Supervisor Holman, go ahead.
My question, I guess, will be directed to the director for Rockhaven because she was talking that they will still follow federal guidelines, CDC, and all those kind of things that are governing her job, I guess, if you want to call. And with that in mind, whatever we vote, be either thumbs up or thumbs down, she will still have to follow the federal requirements. So will that entail then also mandating the virus, bars getting the shots for the virus? Is that going to be the guiding factor from the government, or what we do is just basically mute at that point? Thank you.
Okay, is Natalie still on tonight? Natalie,
I'm here, sir. I'm here. I'm sorry.
would you
The
like
federal-
to?
Yes. Well, I heard part of the question. Have we received a federal mandate for the vaccine? Is that what I heard?
I don't believe that was precisely it. Dave, would you want to go ahead and restate the question, please?
Basically, in a nutshell, you're going to be following your CDC or governmental federal guidance, whatever you're directed to do. And I understand. And whatever we do as a vote, either thumbs up, thumbs down, you still are required to follow that mandate that you got given to you by federal governmental authority. So whatever we vote on, you still could maybe do whatever you have to do, maybe to allow the stoppage of the vaccination, or still require it if so be needed by your direction from federal authority, correct?
Yes and no, sir. We would still have to follow the regulatory guidance on visitation and social distancing and how we wear our PPE. And if the employees have certain temperatures, that we'd have to send them home. So yes, to that part of the question, yes, we would all still be following that guidance from the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid. That's for every nursing home, for-profit, county, for every nursing home that's receiving federal funding. So that part of the question, yes. The other part of the question, the federal government has not given us a mandation that every nursing home must vaccinate their employees. That was not in the guidance. It's one of those things that we would like to have because we have such a vulnerable population, but I haven't read anywhere that the federal government has mandated that. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you.
So, but I'm sorry, but the other portion is if if the federal government requires the mandation, then we would have to follow that. If they choose to go that route. I wanted to put that caveat out there.
Okay, Dave?
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Supervisor Egger again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to come back to the resolution itself, and the question of equitably treating our workforce, with treating our workforce equitably and fairly. And I know that the county chose the word equitably instead of equally, because departments are very different. And also equity is one of the things we strive for, because equity doesn't mean treating everybody the same. It means giving individuals what they need. And in this case, I'm talking about giving a department head what they need. And I just want to point out that we really need to look at why we want to be heavy-handed at Rockhaven. And we have been heavy-handed in the past couple years, and some for good and some for, we don't know. We don't really sometimes know in the moment. They've been some hard decisions. And I think we've really created an environment where the staff is going around their leadership to the board. And I'm concerned about that precedent. And I want that to stop, because we have a leader and we need to support her and her authority. And we need to give her the tools and the authority in this case. And I just think that we need to, when we're looking at our expert department heads that are so carefully selected, whenever we're considering the removal of policy decisions from our expert department heads, we just have to ask ourselves whether we're acting with equity in mind. Would you want to take over this decision-making for a department head? Think about some of our different department heads and whether you're giving them the respect they deserve. And are we giving them all the tools they need to succeed? And that is my last comment. Thank you.
Supervisor Egger. Anyone else with a comment or question at this point?
Comment?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Regardless of what decision we make here tonight, I would hope that we would look at other solutions and look at some positive ways of getting people to look at some of the benefits. I am fortunate enough that I could think through this decision for myself. And I think I made a good decision. I went ahead with the vaccine. And I think maybe if we offer people some positive incentives, financial, a little time off, or what have you, maybe that would allow people to know they are given a choice, and let them make a good choice. Let them have the ability not to be pressured, but to make a good choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Renish. Other comments or questions?
Yes, I just want to say, working in healthcare, I fully expect, just like other vaccines, that I will be required to get the COVID vaccine once it's fully approved, once the time has gone by long enough that the FDA fully approves it. And I fully expect that the vast majority of healthcare systems, Mercy, SSM, what have you, they're all going to make this mandatory, this vaccination. So we really should not tie the hands of Rockhaven's ability to do the same thing down the road. Therefore, I fully support Supervisor Aguiter's amendment to keep this in our toolbox, keep this available once it is fully supported by the FDA. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Renish. Supervisor Peer? You're muted, Lou.
Sorry. I just wanted to clarify, if we voted on this, that would mean that we would be ordering a discontinuation of the mandated situation out there at the nursing. And the director's saying she's going to follow what the federal government and those organizations are saying. So is she saying, even if we vote to discontinue the mandate, and they said that they wanted it mandated, she would mandate it? Is that correct?
Natalie, are you still on?
Absolutely, sir. So, yes, sir. We have to follow the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid policies and procedures. They are the overriding umbrella, higher than anything that we're doing at county and states. You know, we don't want the Office of the Inspector General out here giving us federal tax. They'll shut us down. So if and when the federal government tells us that the vaccine is mandated for nursing homes, we will follow that mandation. If not, we won't have a nursing home. I don't know if I answered that part of the question.
So that's fine. And just to follow up, I'm not sure you're going to answer this, but I'm curious if you would give your opinion. What are we doing here? What is the county doing? Why would we have ordered such a thing in the first place? If you're going to do what the federal government says anyway, what we say doesn't make any difference, does it?
Do you really want to know what I think? Do you all really want to know what I think?
I do.
Okay. I want each and every one of you to close your eyes and think about being 85 years old in a nursing home. I want you to think about that your family had to place you somewhere because they are in that sandwich generation. They cannot take care of you because they still have to work. They placed you in a nursing home because that was the best thing they could do for you. As an 85-year-old person, you still are cognitively intact. You just cannot do all the things that you used to do. But you trusted your loved one to do the very best thing they could for you. And now, when they see that aide, when they see that nurse, they entrust and they feel that they're protected because these are professional people that are working with them. Yes, you have an illness. You have something that placed you with a skill need, but you're not thinking in your mind that you have someone that's not vaccinated and now you're going to get something that you kept yourself away from while you're home. Is that fair to you at 85 years old? Think about that. So now you can open your eyes, and I ask you, as you make this decision, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to support whatever decision you make, but it's going to be very, very hard for me as a nursing home administrator to know that that resident who was 85 years old, who came in for other things that he or she needed help with, we allowed them to die because we took away something that we said that we were going to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. The COVID it's an enemy. We're doing everything that we can to keep it out of the nursing home. So with you taking that away, when I have to report to you that we've had deaths and the primary death is COVID, then I want you to think about the decision that you make tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Stevens?
Actually, that's what I was going to do. I was going to ask Natalie to actually let us know what she wanted and what she was thinking about. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Supervisor Levy. I don't have a hand signal to raise. And so I guess I would ask Natalie this question, and I don't know if she feels comfortable answering it. So based on what you just said, so basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that we should keep the mandate?
Sir, what I'm saying is whatever decision you make, I want everyone to know that we're dealing with life and death here. How it was derived in mandating, maybe I would have chosen a different way of going that way. However, the end state, at the end of the day, it is still about taking care of people and their lives. I beg to differ. We are very much different than all the other organizations in Rock County. The residents here, they are coming here because they want to be taken care of. Those that are incarcerated, they have had a violation of the law, okay? The people that are coming here, they entrust in us to give them the very best care. I wasn't a part of this decision-making. However, I would have done things probably a little different to allow people to make the decision, but it's here now. We have it out of the building. By rescinding this and we get it in the building, how are we going to tell those loved ones, yeah, we allowed folks to not take the vaccine, and subsequently, we don't know through contact tracer how this happened, but we have to let you know that your loved one died at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Mulligan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank Natalie for poignant comments tonight, and I'm gonna do my job with the best of my ability. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Supervisor Mulligan. Supervisor Knudsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question for Natalie. Would you utilize or differentiate any protocols and PPE or safety practices differently in COVID scenarios versus non-COVID scenarios?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, sir.
Would you utilize or differentiate protocols and PPE or safety practices differently in COVID versus non-COVID scenarios?
Absolutely, sir. So we have our zones. If a resident is COVID positive, they're on the hot zone. That means that we have separated them from the rest of the population of residents, and they're treated with the same quality of care, but you have a certain staff that is going to be dedicated for that specific resident to ensure that we stop the spread. So, but when we're in outbreak mode, we all have to wear the mask. We all are wearing the mask and the face shields. But when they're going into the room to provide the direct care, they have to gown up a certain way, like they're on contact isolation. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, but I was kind of curious as to vaccinated versus.
So so when I first got here, those employees that were vaccinated, and those employees that are not vaccinated, and they took the exemptions. So they would always walk around with the face shields on that let folks know that they have not had the vaccination. But since we're in an outbreak mode, we all have to have on the face shields.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to ask a question of something Natalie said. Said that having everyone vaccinated would protect the residents of Rockhaven, and it would not allow any deaths, and we would know who it was. But then I heard before that being vaccinated does not stop someone from being contagious and spreading the virus. So what is she saying?
Natalie?
What I'm saying, sir, is anything that we can to reduce bringing it in, I believe that we should try our very, very best as citizens of Rockhaven, as citizens of Rock County. Now, I'm not going to say 100% that we're not going to get it because, you know, we had one resident that had tested positive. We don't know if it's a fluke in the test, but we still had to follow the CDC guidelines of making sure we placed him in the hot zone. So if, you know, that we would not have any other spreads. So no other employee tested positive, no other resident tested positive. So we don't know, but I think we should try very, very hard to do everything that we can to keep our loved ones alive as long and give them a great quality of life. But by rescinding this, I think it brings things different. Thank you.
Natalie, do you know what level of percentage does a person who's vaccinated, how much does that reduce their contagiousness?
Sir, I don't know that.
And what are you basing your comments on tonight?
Basing my comments on the fact that those that are vaccinated are here working, those that are taking the exemptions, they have the appropriate PPE on, and I'm very proud to state that we have no one that's tested positive.
So you don't know that someone who's vaccinated is going to reduce the amount of contagiousness of the virus.
Supervisor Richard, if I could, I think the point that was trying to be made is, I think Supervisor Egger and others have referred to this earlier when we talked about what the research currently shows, and Natalie's point was not that having the vaccine would eliminate the possibility that someone would get COVID, but research is indicating that having the vaccine, the effectiveness of the vaccine being what it is, reduces the likelihood that someone would both get and pass on COVID. Is that correct, Natalie?
Absolutely, sir.
Right, so you're different from every other nursing home administrator in the state who has not mandated the vaccine.
Well, no, sir, I'm not different. I fell in on this, and what I said when I interviewed was, I would have done things different, but I am a supporter of the chain of command. Whatever policies and procedures are in effect, I support those the best that I can, because you had leaders who made a definitive answer. I may have done it differently, but we have a policy and procedure, and I don't measure myself on the other nursing homes. I measure myself on the likelihood of doing my job and making sure that we're keeping OIG out and keeping residents alive and staff alive, and they're not dying from COVID.
Yeah, again, you're just being a little hyperbolic with saying they're not dying because people are vaccinated. We were already stated that people can still die from if staff is vaccinated.
But I think your initial question was, what makes us different than the other facilities, nursing home facilities, I guess, across Wisconsin? I agree, I would have done things differently, but I wasn't here. You know, I fell in on it, so I just want to see it through.
I'm finished.
Supervisor Williams.
Thank you. One thing I want to state, I think I clearly have heard Natalie state that she is going to follow policy. And direct policy is our decisions of what is in our policy areas. And what supersedes it is Medicare and Medicaid. And we all have a decision to make. This is a choice and option, just like it was a choice and option of what this policy that's in place now. Some of us said yes, some of us said no. And we have to evaluate whether or not we're gonna continue it or not. I personally agree with statements that have been made by Gina, because I have to look at this from my life. My mother was in a skilled nursing facility. Fortunately, it wasn't COVID, but they did have an outbreak, and there were several times that we were not able to go and visit because of their outbreak. And it was for their protection as well as for ours that we didn't come back out and spread it into the community. I understand that completely. And regrettably, COVID is even more serious. I do not believe in mandating anything for someone. That's my personal opinion. I do not believe in mandation. And I think most of us have come to a decision, most of us hopefully have come to a decision of how we would vote on this. So I don't know if anyone will second me, but I'm calling this to be voted on. So I'm calling the vote.
Davis,
There was a second by, was that West?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to call the question. At this point, this will cut off any further debate on the original resolution. If this is successful, then we will go directly into voting on the original resolution without any further debate. Mr. Greenlee, am I correct in saying that?
You are.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, you'd read the roll, please.
Brian,
Yes.
Davis,
yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Pier,
Yes.
Mulwiney,
Yes.
Yeomans,
Yes.
Levy,
No.
Mulligan,
Yes.
Beaver,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Rashkin,
Yes.
Agutter,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Baumkamp,
Yes.
Gustina,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Pudzilny,
Yes.
Potter,
Yes.
Schulz,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Renish,
Yes.
Sweeney,
Yes.
Pam Bostwick,
Yes.
Rich Bostwick,
Yes.
26 yes. I'm sorry, 27 yes. 1 no, 1 absent, 1 vacant.
Okay, so the debate is now ended on the main resolution. We'll go directly into voting on the regular resolution that was introduced earlier. Is everybody clear on what we're doing?
Why don't you have Lisa read it?
So we're voting on the original resolution. Mulwiney,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Wildy, Rashkin,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Schulz,
Yes.
Baumkamp,
No.
Holman,
No.
Richard,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Mulligan,
No.
Stevens,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Egger,
No.
Renish,
No.
Yeomans,
No.
Davis,
No.
Potter,
Yes.
Wilson,
No.
Pam Bostwick,
No.
Brian,
Yes.
Podzilny, Taylor,
No.
Gustina, Wayne, you're muted.
Yes, yes, I said yes.
Thank you. Sweeney,
Yes.
Pier,
Yes.
Beaver,
Yes.
Rich Bostwick.
No.
I wanted to go back to check on Podzilny. What was that?
No.
Thank you. Yes, 15, no, 12, 1 absent.
Okay. The motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item is adjournment.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Taylor will move.
Thank you, Jacob.
Here, second.
Second, I think.
Basketball third.
We have a motion and a second and a third to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Night, everybody.